Chapter 23, Effective Sentences. This is a chapter that's focused on helping you edit and proofread what you've written. The exercises in the book are extremely helpful ones, and I highly suggest you're trying at least 3 or 4 from each section. If you have questions about them, or to know if you're doing them correctly, feel free to get up with me. What is wordiness? Simply put, wordiness is the use of more words than are needed to say what you want to say. Having too many words in your sentences is awkward, boring, confusing, and stressful to your readers. Take a look at the initial paragraph under the Wordiness and Economy section on page 554 for an excellent example of what not to do. Your book lists 4 sources of wordiness: Deadwood, pointless repetition of meaning, inadequate clause cutting, and delay of subject. The first of these, Deadwood, is just what it sounds like. It refers to words in a sentence that have no life and do not add anything useful to your work. In the first example here on the screen, you see that the word red is a color, so you do not need to say both red and in color. You can just use red, as in, his hair was red. Choose one or the other. The second example shows a prepositional phrase, in a harsh manner. That could be simplified to just the word harshly instead. You would have, instead of he spoke to her in a harsh manner, he spoke to her harshly. Pointless repetition of meaning is a specific type of Deadwood, and it reflects a lack of confidence on the writer's part. Essentially, it says to the readers, I don't trust that you'll get this the first time I say it, so I'll tell you again just to make sure. What you do want to do when you are speaking is to repeat yourself. However, you do not need to do so when you write. A reader who does not understand what you say the first time can go back and reread the section if they need to. In the examples provided here, you see that the words fascinating and interesting both have the same meaning. Thus, they do not need to both be used. Instead of saying the film was very fascinating and interesting, you can just say the film was very fascinating, or the film was very interesting. Instead of saying to begin with, in the first place, the story has terrific suspense, you can just say to begin with, the story has terrific suspense. You do not need both markers of time. The third type of wordiness is inadequate clause cutting. Clauses are phrases or groups of words that have a subject and a verb but do not stand alone as a sentence. They are essentially sentences within a sentence. You can remove the clauses by making them into modifiers. The sentence, some of the students who were more enthusiastic wrote an extra paper, becomes some of the more enthusiastic students wrote an extra paper. New crayons, which are made from soybeans, are more environmentally sound than crayons that are made from wax, becomes new soybean crayons are more environmentally sound than wax crayons. The new sentences are easier to read and are less confusing. Delay of subject is the final category of wordiness. See the words there are and there is at the beginning of these 2 sentences? That is delay of subject. Anytime that you use the word there or it to start a sentence, and then follow that with a helping verb like a form of the word to be, you are likely using delay of subject. You can rearrange that sentence, omit the clause, and have a stronger message to your readers. The first example, there are many students who dislike having to take math, becomes many students dislike having to take math. And the second example, there is a dog at that house that will not stop barking, becomes a dog at that house will not start barking. Passive voice is yet another way that you can sound too formal or too wordy. In passive voice, the subject is acted upon by something or someone else, as in, the ball was thrown by the boy. To make your sentence active voice, you need to make sure that the subject is the one performing the action. Instead of the ball was thrown by the boy, the sentence could read, the boy threw the ball. We already discussed some of parallel format when we focused on the chapter on outlines. Make sure when you have items in a series that you verify that they are the same part of speech and also the same value. Descriptive words do not break parallel structure. Make sure that you take a look at the exercises and examples in your book. You'll find questions very similar to some of these on your test. Finally, when it is possible, you want to make sure that you vary the sentence structures within your paragraphs. If you start all the sentences the same way, or if your sentences tend to all be the same length, then you can create a restless reader who does not have a long enough attention span.